to the village. Welcome everyone to the village. I'm so excited for you to join in as we chat with a featured author for our village collective that is happening when? June 1st. So come on in, tag a friend, tag all your teacher besties, all of your colleagues, your team members. Be sure to tag them. And if you're watching the replay, go ahead and put in replay so that we know that you have tuned in. I am your girl, Dr. Roz, CEO and founder of the Village Leadership Group, LLC. And I am joined today by a very special guest, one of my special sorors. Exactly. And she is an author and she has joined the village to pour into teachers and educators at this very critical time of the school year. She will be joining us at the Village Collective for our very first conference in person where we're coming together to inspire, motivate, and ignite leaders to finish strong. So I'm going to let my soror introduce herself and tell us a little bit about her. So, welcome to the village, soror.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm so happy to be here and to be a part of this tour. So happy to be here. So, as she said, my name is Dr. Deborah Hall-Greene Thomas. I have a PhD in clinical psychology. I am a licensed consultant, an executive coach. I work with the federal government. I coach all of those leaders that you see out there, not this particular administration, because my contract is on hold right now, but I have done a lot of the leaders in that administration. But I really want to focus on this book. This your conference is just prime time for what I've been doing over the past few years. I've been going out to schools, I've been talking to teachers about this book. They believed they could fly, and they did. The legendary Tuskegee Airmen. So I like to just say that I'm on a mission. I'm on a mission to keep this legacy alive. I'm on a mission to get this book in the hands of as many, not only children, I used to say as many elementary school kids that I can, but I found out and I've gotten feedback that high school students use this book because it's based totally on facts, that high school students use the book for their book reports. And then I have parents, I I'm no longer surprised at the number of parents that do not know the story of the Tuskegee Airmen. And so this was born out of a passion. And when I started out, I really wanted to introduce the Tuskegee Airmen to a new generation. And so as we were going along, I said to my son, who traveled with me to the national conventions, I said, "What do you remember?" And even at that young age, 5, 6 years old, he said, "I remember practically everything. They made me a rock star one day at one of the conventions." And so I started talking to him. And the more I spoke to him, the more I said, this needs to be a children's book. I was the national protocol officer for over 25 years with the Tuskegee Airmen. So you
Wow.
see, I traveled with them. I knew them. I had personal relationships with them. So did my son. They were pop, uncle, whatever, because, growing up in this household, you didn't call, elderly people, you did not call them by their first name, anyone that was senior to you. So he had, affectionate names for all of them. And when I was working in the wee hours doing protocol stuff, he might have gone in a chauffeured car with them to, a drive-through or something. So it was really a learning experience for him. I would have original Tuskegee Airmen to come to not only his school, but to my job. So people were already always impressed that I actually knew the original Tuskegee Airmen. And then we have another name. If you ever see the name DOTA, that's capital DOTA, that's documented original Tuskegee Airmen.
Wow.
So this is a passion. And then my signature line after I autograph. I like to autograph every book that goes out there. I'd sometimes sit here at my counter and autograph 500 books at a time. And I like my signature line is keep the legacy alive. So I challenge everyone that gets this book to keep the legacy alive. It is entertaining. I hear from parents that it is their children's favorite book. In fact, they said I've read the book about 50 times to that child
Wow.
because they really like hearing it. And kids are still fascinated with aviation, air
Yeah.
pilots, things like that. But what I really tell them is there were 998 pilots. However, there were over 14,000 Tuskegee Airmen. So, what does that mean? That means that they combine the radio operators, the mechanics, the nurses.
Yeah.
They were all in that experience. They took care of those pilots, those 998. So,
Wow.
it's just a labor of love. I love going out. I love talking to teachers. Principals have become some of my best friends. I go out to the schools, I talk to the kids. And what's been happening lately is the principals will then talk to PTA about buying some of the books, and we will have a book signing. And my
Hmm.
son, who comes to life out of the book, he goes with me. And the parents tell me that my son is a household name now. So he's the rock star. Yes. So,
Wow. So I'm just curious because I've had an opportunity to speak to you at an event recently where you were featuring your book, but I want to know more about the different challenges that some of the schools are facing as far as teaching our students a part of their history. In schools right now, they're trying to take away so many books such as this, or they don't want to tell certain parts of our history. And so I love that you're going into schools and speaking to principals, and they're getting this book for their students. So speak more about why this is so important during this time where in some areas these type of books are not highlighted or featured for our schools.
and I'm glad you brought that up. So you go through a period where you say, it is my time.
Hmm.
I could not, believe it or not, some people, what we're going through with our history being erased, some people would think, oh my goodness, this isn't going to get out. This is, believe it or not, my time. Now, why do I say that? I say that because, first of all, I don't build this as the Tuskegee Airmen being African American heroes. The Tuskegee Airmen are American
And it's
heroes.
an American story,
They are
American heritage, right?
American heroes. Yes, yes, yes. And so we had to set out to make a wrong right. You see, they were not in the history books. So this is when in early 1970s, they said this isn't right because then what started happening, a strange thing started happening in the 80s and 90s. At our conventions, there would be white fighter bombers would show up at our conventions and they would ask if they could have a minute. And they would say, my name is so and so. And it's because of the men sitting in this room that I live here today. And I have, children and grandchildren and great grandchildren because they escorted me back to my base. So the word that I worked on, I started working with them, like I said, it's been now over 35 years ago. And we started this marketing. They are American heroes. And so they were under the leadership of Colonel uh, under the leadership of I'm getting ready to say that the name is escaping me. Oh, Benjamin O. Davis. They were
Yeah.
under his leadership. And I don't know if you've ever seen or the story, but the airplane that's in the Air and Space Museum, he on his airplane is written by request only. He had the mechanic to put that on his airplane. And that's because they then started escorting these bombers because they started as requesting them when they found out that the Tuskegee Airmen, they did not want to ever lose a bomber. So they depended on their expertise to escort them back safely to their base. But let me fast forward to now. And you say, why do I say this book is perfect timing? In the first Trump administration, President Trump in the Oval Office, it was kind of low key, but he was at the State of the Union. President Trump promoted Colonel McGee, one of the donors, he promoted him to the rank of general. And so once he heard the story and people were telling him, they are American heroes. And then another thing that happened that really put them up on a level is that I was one of the integral parts of them being awarded the Congressional Gold Medal. Congressional Gold Medal. This was the first time it was ever given to a group. It's been given to several more, but Tuskegee Airmen were the first group that a Congressional Gold Medal was given to. At the time we were working on this for a year, Nancy Pelosi, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, was going to be the one to give the medal out because it's hard to plan a year in advance to get on the president's schedule, and that was President George W. Bush at the time. And so, true story, 3 days before the actual ceremony, after over a year of planning, I got a call from the White House. I thought it was my brother playing a joke on me until I looked at caller ID and it did say the White House. And they said that the president wants to present the Congressional Gold Medal to the Tuskegee Airmen. And I went, oh my goodness, because that causes a lot of different shifting. You have to have so much more space available. Yeah. So, and then 24 hours before, they said that I got another call saying he wanted a photo op. And I said, no problem. When the ceremony is over, the program is over, I'll move them all to the stage. They said, no, he wants a shot before the program. So here I am giving orders to the Capitol Police. Find me a room in this rotunda. Find me a room in the rotunda. So all of this took place. And I will tell you that President Bush, he did something that they didn't expect, but it was as if it was paid in full. That's what one of the airmen said to me.
Wow.
Ace, that it was paid. He stood up on that podium and they were trying to stand up and he said, no, it is I, the president, who salutes you.
Ooh.
Tears were all over the place. A president of the United States saluted them.
Wow.
And, they said they felt vindicated with that salute.
Yeah,
Something that may seem simple, but that's what vindicated them. Yes.
Yeah.
And
that
so
respect and that honor.
Yes. And so remember, the honors were being given by a Republican Party at the time in the House.
Mm-hmm.
So when Donald Trump did what he did, it was almost like, I think principals, teachers, for some reason, and I think that reason, I was just welcomed. I was welcomed. And I went to a lot of schools that were financially crippled.
Right.
And I work with the PTA. I called on my contacts to purchase, 100 books, purchase this, purchase that. And it always worked out, Dr. Roz. It always worked out.
That's good.
Yeah.
You were called for this.
Well,
this is your season. So that's beautiful. Now, I know you saying you're passionate about the story and, this is your calling. And I get that. But not everyone has that thing inside of them where they're passionate about, and they say, you know what, one day I'm gonna write that book, or oh, I should write a book. What inspired you to just get it done? Like, how did you even start? I have so many friends and colleagues who want to write a book, and they ask me the same question, like, how do I even get started? I have this topic or this idea, and I think we should have this book in schools. I think we should have more diversity with, different books. Or I want to tell a story about something that I think others should know about or learn. So, what inspired you to get started? How did you get started? I want to hear about that journey.
Okay. So, and I'm asked this a lot, of course. The famous word used to be the passion for it. But I'll tell you what really got me started was when I would see certain blurbs. People always would call me because they know how involved I was with the Tuskegee Airmen. So, can you imagine sitting someplace or sitting in the audience and hearing things in February about Black history? And so people would call me or invite me to places, and I'm sitting in the audience, and I know that they don't have their facts correct.
Oh,
It would just, oh my goodness, I'm sitting there like, oh, that's not the way it happened. That's not the way it happened. And so what always stayed in the back of my mind was at one of our conventions in California, National Convention, there was a producer there. They were doing a documentary on, and it was entitled In Their Own Words. My
mhm.
role as protocol officer was to schedule those that were going to do the interviews. So, I'd do the whole program, I'd go get them, bring them in, they would do it. So, when we got to the last interview, and that week I had laryngitis. I looked terrible. I was sick the entire week, but I worked the entire time. And so the producer looked at me and he said, "You have done a phenomenal job." He said, "I really would like for you to be in this movie, in this documentary." And I was like, "No, no, 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 no." So an Air Force, I had an Air Force Mac. At that time, she was Major Sarah Custer. She retired as a colonel. And at any rate, I said, "Please use her. She's looking beautiful in her uniform." They asked her a few things and they put her in it. He said, "No, I can bring up the tone. Don't worry about the laryngitis. I can bring up the tone, what have you." So we talked and we talked, and I answered the questions. And I said, you know, I just love that they're telling the story. Some cried in their own words, and it was 2 hours long, what have you. So when it came out, they sent the license to those that were in it. I got the, I got the video, and I am very well predominantly displayed in this video, Dr. Ross. I was like, oh my God, because I'm in the video, especially at the end, a lot. And I even close out the whole thing. And so that stayed on my mind, how they told their stories in their own words. And I can just remember in airports, on the airplane, they would announce the Tuskegee Airmen were on the airplane, the pilots. And it's just such a feeling. And then I used to always tell my son, "Don't worry, baby, if anything happened, we got a lot of pilots on this plane. And so it just always just stayed with me. And now we fast forward to over the last few years, when I think about our history being erased, and I think about it was just the 70s, 80s that we just got them in the forefront. And I'm
Right.
thinking, oh my God, and now they're older and they're joining what we call the Lonely Eagles, meaning they have passed on. So what can I do? And I just woke up. I tell any aspiring author, I keep a pencil and pad everywhere in the house. And I woke up and I just started writing. But again, I was writing a book in my own, words. And a lot of them got a chance to write their autobiographies, or they
Mhm.
wrote about Tuskegee Airmen. And I said, well, nobody's going to want to hear from me. I'm not a Tuskegee Airman. And then when I started talking to my son, and that's getting what we call, that hook
Mhm.
line. All of a sudden, listening to him, I got my hook line. And I'll tell you, the rest of it just flowed, 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 because I'm listening to him and I'm reliving everything. And I can say, yeah, yeah, that's right. They told you that. And the things that he remembered, which I won't tell you all in the book, but he just had a special place with the Airman One convention in about 2000 Air Force. And all of the four-star generals were there and the Secretary of the Air Force. and they sang happy birthday to my son
Oh,
because I was up all night helping their colonel, the MC. They said, go see Dr. D, go see Dr. D. She'll help you get your script together. We were up all night, and his birthday was the next day. And I said, I'm going to be asleep in the luncheon. And this guy, the colonel, stopped and asked for permission from the Secretary of the Air Force if they could please sing happy birthday to my son.
oh, that's beautiful. Then
Yes.
tell me you have that on video.
Yes.
Oh,
I want to get the one from the actual hotel. They used to tell me they'd send it. I never got it, but I got
oh,
people doing it.
that's
Yeah.
awesome. That's awesome. So,
So you got to start with the passion, though. I
yes,
don't want to. You got to have a passion for what you're writing about, whether it's fiction or nonfiction. Have a passion about it, and then just don't rush it. What you have to do is keep that pen and pad, and when you get a thought or you get an idea, you write it down. This isn't my first rodeo, so I do have a book called. I wrote with other co-authors, and my segment is becoming Dr. D. And even my siblings said, I didn't know that. When they read it, I didn't know that. From me being bused to, you know, I was at a segregated elementary and then going to an all white school. 24 of us started and only two of us finished our years over there. They just said, no, we don't want to go there. So, I identified with you know, Colonel B, well, General when he later on, but General B.O. Davis, when he was isolated, at the academy for 4 years, isolated because no
mhm,
one wanted to bunk with him or anything. So they
wow,
gave him up top. He was isolated. I felt that way, going to a school to learn French, an all white school. So it was just, to me, it was such a transition to write about these people. Not that I experienced, because remember, those were segregated times. And you have to admire someone that did all they did, not only facing segregation in the United States, but facing it abroad, you know? So it just gives you a passion, you know?
yes, yes. So
Yeah.
I do want to, I appreciate you for joining the village and saying yes to the call for joining the village collective. So I want to show your flyer um, that you'll be you sorry that we're using so that people can see that you are one of our featured authors for our event, and we're so excited. June 1st, the Village Collective. So what can people expect when they come to the Village Collective, when they stop by and speak to Dr. D?
Well, what my plan is, I like to, especially when I'm attending things like this, and I admire so much what you're doing, Dr. Roz, with this Village
I
Collective.
appreciate it.
I've been doing all the reading. When you send me something and tell me to read it, I read all of that.
Oh,
I've
great.
gone
Thank
on your
you.
Facebook, I've gone on your Instagram, because it's important to me to know who I am connecting these heroes with.
Yes.
That makes sense to you. I want to know that we're in that same thread. And I just admire you so much of what you're
Oh,
doing.
thank you.
Yes, yes. But when you come to where I will be seated in the house, what I like to do is I like to bring memorabilia. I have the replica of the Congressional Gold Medal, which is, in the museum, but the replica that I actually gave out. I can't use the word presented because it can only be presented by Congress. But I
Yeah.
actually handed the medals at the end of the ceremony. I was flanked by a lot of airmen, and they told me this at the end. Oh, you'll be the one giving the medals out. So I actually handed the medals out to everyone. So I do have a replica of the Congressional Gold Medal that I bring with me. I do have I do have my awards over the years from the Tuskegee Airmen. I've gotten Tuskegee Airman of the Year, probably 3 awards.
Oh, wow.
Um, yeah, I do have the local chapter, the East Coast chapter that I'm a member of. I do have their Tuskegee Airmen of the Year, and I have a very special award from the Tuskegee women. They gave me an award that's just, I could not believe it. And it's just a fantastic award, their statue. So, but, and also, I was the liaison for the Tuskegee Airmen movie, the HBO movie. And, you know, at the time, it was the highest watched movie in HBO's history. And so I worked with Colonel DeShields, my mentor, for the HBO movie. And then they did a book. I bring a copy of that, the Tuskegee Airmen book. On one side, it's the movie and, you know, the pictures of Lawrence Fishburne and all of them. But on the other side of that page are the original shots. So it's a priceless book. I bring a copy of that. Yeah. So, you know, I bring a whole layout, and then I have a couple of signed, once I get those easels, I have a couple of signed original paintings from original Tuskegee Airmen.
Nice,
So
nice.
it's really kind of walking down history.
It's sort of like a mini museum all in
Yes,
one. Yes,
yes, yes, yes.
I
And
love
by
it.
the way, my book is in every museum in the city of Alexandria.
Ooh, okay, then that is beautiful. That's a
Yes,
great accomplishment. So congratulations to you on
thank you.
that.
Thank you.
That speaks volumes. That is, you know, that you were able to accomplish that. So I'm excited for you to join the Village Collective. Again, I want to encourage everyone who's tuning in. Definitely, you want to register for our event. The information is there for you in the comments to check us out and register. Is this Sunday, June 1st, in the DMV area. So be sure to register. Again, we are inspiring teachers, school leaders, administrators, all educators. We're inspiring them and igniting leaders to finish strong. In many areas, especially in the DMV, we are still going strong, y'all. We are in the trenches. We don't end until the middle of June. So we want to make sure that we are taking the time to finish strong so that we can start strong in the next school year. So we are coming together as educators, as leaders, as teachers to really, share best practices, learn from one another, grow, because iron sharpens iron, and we want to make sure that we are inspiring our teachers as leaders and making sure that we're ready to end this school year with a bang, celebrate our success, being able to reflect and have discussions with like minded educators who are on fire and committed and passionate about education. So that's what the Village Collective is all about. And we are so excited that Dr. D will be in the house. I'm going to keep calling you that now.
That's what they call me. That's what kids started calling me. I
So,
think they didn't want to say all four names. So
that's probably because I could also call you Stormborn. So,
yes, yes,
so excited that she will be featuring her book. And again, let me show that wonderful book. Because again, we want to make sure that
yes.
you come and stop by and
And
hopefully.
I personally autograph each book.
Oh yeah, so you definitely want to stop by and check her display out and learn more about the Tuskegee Airmen. Like Dr. D said, so many of us we don't know the ins and outs of all that they went through and the things that they experienced during that time. So again, they believed they could fly, and they did. The Tuskegee Airmen, written by Dr. Deborah Hall-Greene Thomas, my soror, and my shiro. So I definitely, I look up to you. You are an amazing author, um, community member, all the things, and you're working behind the scenes to make sure that this story is in the hands of our children,
Yes.
our youth, and it's so important. So I salute you for
Thank you
your
so
work.
much. Can I say just two other very quick
Go
things?
ahead, definitely.
The one thing I want to say is I just came off of the Delta 2025 Authors on Tour. We were in Delaware, and they had a video. They had the top politicians. They had a video that Senator Coons made. And not only did there were 7 authors selected to be on this tour. Not only did Senator Coons mention us all by name, but he mentioned the Tuskegee Airmen book. So I was so proud of that. And then the second thing I did want to say is that in 2024, last year, I was honored to receive the Joseph R. Biden 2024 prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award for community service. Yes.
Awesome,
So,
awesome.
and it's a
Congratulations.
big, big, big plaque. Yes.
All right. So again, I salute you. This is why you're invited to the village, and I appreciate you for joining the village and saying yes to the call to being a featured author for our conference.
You
Um,
have my support. You have
I
my support.
thank you, thank you.
Yes. Yes.
And again, guys, you definitely want to join the Village Collective. The link is in the comment section already. June 1st in the DMV area in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. Again, the Village Collective igniting leaders to finish strong. We're going to have workshops, panels. We have tips to finish strong. Why? Because we want to start strong next school year. We're going to have book signings. You already heard Dr. D say she's signing in her book, Leadership Strategies to Empower Teachers. We're going to talk about strength-based cultures in schools and more. So definitely we want you to come out this Sunday, June 1st. Be sure to register, register, register. I know it's free, so some people say, oh, I'll just show up. No, we need you to register because we have some goodies for you. We need to know how people are showing up, right? So
Exactly.
please, so please register in advance. See you again June 1st. Dr. D, I want to thank you again
It's been
for
my honor.
joining us today. I'm going to share this a million times. I want to get the word out that Dr. D will be at the Village Collective. And I want everyone to come out and get one of those books and give it to the young people. Like you said, the young, old, in between, we all need to learn more about our
Yes.
history. So this is important work. This is hard work. And I salute
It's
you for
trying to go
everything.
out on you,
Uh-oh, can you hear me now?
freeze on you. Yes, now it's fine.
Okay, great. Great. So
Oh,
I
you just
just,
again.
all right. So I'm going to just keep
All
talking
right, they
and
the
sit
little gremlins are playing with it.
back. All right. So thank you so much, Dr. D. And everybody,
Thank
again,
you.
tune in June 1st. Join us on June 1st. I'll talk to you later. Thank you, Dr. D.
Thank you. Goodbye.